How about you?
Oh, hang on.
And a oop.
I'm freezing cold.
And a oop.
Ding, ding. Hello, hello. Come on, come on. Come on, come on. Come on, come on. Come on, come on. Please, please me. Whoa, yeah. Like I do you. How's it go? It's something like that.
And a oop.
Please, please me. Please, please me. Whoa, yeah. Like I please you. Dee, 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 dee.
The way they say it
I know.
it doesn't sound dirty.
And a oop.
And then the one song. Are you pretty familiar with the Beatles?
Yeah. I'm not like a... I mean, I know their greatest hits. I don't know like the more obscure songs, but yeah.
Should have known better. It goes, whoa, whoa, I should have known better with a girl like you.
Mm-hmm.
That I would love everything that you do. And I do. Hey, hey, hey.
Yeah.
And I do. And then there's a harmonica on that. And then it goes into like this interlude, or it just changes up and it goes, and when I touch you, I feel happy. Inside. It's just a feeling that my love I can hide.
And a oop.
So the name of that song is I Should Have Known Better, but that's only the first line. They don't. It's not like a chorus or whatever.
And a oop.
Whoa, whoa,
What's your favorite Beatles song?
I couldn't.
I have so many.
I can't pick one. I like your children. There's so many. Well, here I wrote. Okay. Love, love me do. You know I love you. I'll always be true. So please love me do. Come on, come on. The aforementioned allusion to oral sex.
Hello?
And a oop.
So you got Love Me Do. Please, please me. Have you ever heard of I Shake It Up, Baby, now shake it up?
That's not their song.
Babe.
Twist and Shout?
Absolutely it's their
That's
song.
not their song.
Honey. How dare you. Twist and Shout song by the Beatles.
Is it really?
Absolutely.
What?
Oh,
How did I not know that?
They got mad hits. Well, I think of Ferris Bueller when I think of it.
Totally.
But, yeah, it's their song.
Ferris is who comes to my mind first. Why did I not know that?
I'm not sure. Who did you think it was by, or did you know?
Like Chubby Checkers or somebody?
First of all, he's chubby. He's a big boy. He's thick, but he's not plural, honey. It's
What's
just
his name?
Chubby Checker.
Oh, Chubby Checker.
Although you do say I'm playing checkers. But do you say I'm playing chesses? Next song. She loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah. She loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah. Next song. Oh yeah, I'll tell you something. I think you'll understand when I say that something.
I wanna hold your hand. I wanna hold your hand.
I wanna. And the next one. Listen. Do I do? Do you want to know a secret? Do I do? Do you promise not to tell? Whoa, whoa, closer. Do I do? Let me whisper in your ear. Do I do? Say the words I long to hear. I'm in love with you. Ooh. I was Ringo and Paul in that one. Next one. Close your eyes and I'll kiss you. Tomorrow I'll miss you. Remember. It's all my loving. And then while
like that one.
I'm away,
I
I'll
lay
ride home every day. And I'll send all my loving.
I like that one.
I think that's how it goes. Oh, next. Hold me, love me, hold me, love me. I ain't got nothing but love, babe. 8 days a week. 8 days a week. I love you.
What else you got? Did they have any other hits, honey?
It's been a hard day's night.
And I've been working like a dog.
It's been a hard day's night. I should be sleeping like a dog.
Do they have the most hits of any band ever?
I would think so.
The most known,
Yeah.
well-known hits, it seems, at least. They've got so many.
These came out 50 flipping years ago, dude. And like,
they're still so good.
I showed you the headline of The Weeknd. Blinding Lights
Yeah.
is the #1 song of Hot 100 all time. What does that even mean? They're not going to be listening to that crappy song in 50 years. First of all, it's not even a good Weekend song. Like
Right. It's not one of his better
Yeah, it's not like
ones.
The Hills. They only call you in.
Oh, I love that song.
Fighting it.
And there's another song of the weekend that came out like around the same time as Blinding Lights. And we both liked it better.
Yeah.
Heartbreak or something?
Heartless.
Heartless.
Yeah.
But for whatever
Yeah.
reason, Blinding Lights is the one that took off. I think
Yeah.
that TikTok dance.
Mm.
Remember that TikTok dance everyone was doing for a while? Like Cam and Nicole and their kids recorded themselves doing it.
Oh, yeah.
And like everyone it was super cute. I think that
Yeah.
kind of helped it be popular and maintain popularity.
Paul and John didn't need no TikTok.
I'll tell
Okay.
you
Yeah.
a couple of my favorite Beatles songs.
But I was going to go through the rest.
Oh, okay.
Well,
I'm enjoying listening to you sing little snippets. I love
we're
it.
singing together, lover.
Next.
We're Ringo and George.
We're Ringo and we're not Paul and John. We're Ringo and George. I'm Ringo, you're George.
You got resting drummer face. What about I don't care too much for money. Money can't buy me love. Can't buy me love. An 80s movie also by the same title.
Yeah.
And a oop.
Help me if you can, I'm
I'm
feeling
feeling
down.
down.
And I do appreciate you being round. Help me get my feet back on the ground. Can you please help me?
Help me.
Help me. Yesterday.
All my troubles seem so far away.
Penny Lane is in my ears and in my eyes. I don't know anymore. Lucy in the sky with diamonds. LSD.
This is their colorful phase.
Drug
This is when they
reference,
came
yeah.
out of the black and white
Yep.
and into the color.
Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club. All you need is love. All you need is love. Love.
Love is all you need.
Hey Jude.
Oh, I love Hey Jude.
Do. And then I think that's when they stopped making.
This is when they got
The
a little
poppy
bit.
hits,
They
yeah.
got a bit more somber.
Yeah.
Was this the Yellow Submarine
Yeah.
phase? This
Yeah.
was the like, Eleanor Rigby, which is one of
Correct.
my favorite songs.
Lennox Albert's
Lennox's
favorite
favorite song.
songs. Yeah. Baby, you can drive my car. Yes, I'm gonna be a star. Yellow Submarine, Strawberry Fields, Eleanor Rigby, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club. But I forget the title of the actual song. That was the name of the album, anyways.
Mm-hmm.
It was good. It was rocking. I get high with a little help from my friend. And then I think where the drugs really took over. I am the Eggman. Woo! I am the Walrus. Woo! Cuckoo, 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 cuckoo.
Was this the Octopus's Garden?
Yeah,
Yeah, wow. They were definitely on LSD.
yeah. They well by that time they got melancholy, maudlin. They just didn't do the up tempo pop ditties.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's still obviously super talented. But yeah, they fell off.
And a oop.
Yeah, I think Let It Be is my favorite.
It's good, but it's somber, it's slow.
Well, I think I have a personal fondness for it because when I was growing up, we had a piano, and my dad would always play Let It Be and sing it.
Yeah.
And so I remember like laying in my room and just hearing my dad play the piano. And that was one of his songs that he played often.
Yeah. I had, what do the Beatles mean to you in your life? Well, I remember, I think in early high school, and I don't know how I got it, but I had a tape. It might have been my mom's. It wasn't an official album, but it was like a compilation of their hits. Beatles 1962 to 1966. Had all these songs on it, dude. And I remember playing that a lot. And my mom was just a huge Beatles fan, like ginormous. Mm-hmm. Still is today. She was asking me about we're reviewing Get Back, which is the Peter Jackson. I said Peter Travers from Rolling Stone. Peter Jackson, the guy who directed Lord of the Rings. He assembled a ton of footage from the Let It Be recording sessions, and didn't whittle it down enough. He whittled it down to 8 hours over 3 episodes, but it's still too long. Yeah, I played that tape a lot. My mom loves the Beatles, and she was asking me via text message, do you have a Disney Plus login? And I said, maybe. I don't know. It's on the internet.
And a oop.
Anyways, so Get Back, the Beatles is a documentary. So what happened originally when they filmed Get Back, when they originally made the album Let It Be, they invited a director guy, and he was going to film them in the studio coming up with it. And this director guy who was a douche, right? He was just a moron.
Yeah, I got that vibe from him.
Yeah, he was annoying, and he got way too much time, Peter Jackson. Hello. So he had a ton of footage, and Peter Jackson, and they released this documentary way back then, but the mass of tape and footage, Peter Jackson got it through. He had the blessing of Paul McCartney and Ringo. George is dead.
Are Paul and Ringo the two that are alive still?
Correct.
When did George die?
George died
kind of recently, right? Like within the last 10 years?
Yeah.
And a oop.
Let me just read the Wikipedia.
Okay.
Get Back.
And a oop.
The Beatles Get Back is a 2021 documentary series directed and produced by Peter Jackson. It covers the making of the Beatles' 1970 album Let It Be, which had the working title of Get It Back. That's what I was trying to say. I just couldn't formulate it in my head. And draws from material originally captured for Michael Lindsay Hogg's 1970 documentary of the album, also titled Let It Be. Originally conceived as a feature film, The Beatles Get Back consists of 3 episodes with runtimes between 2 and 3 hours each, resulting in a runtime of nearly 8 hours of material. Series is presented by Disney Plus in association with Apple Corps, which is the Beatles' holding company, business company, and Wingnut Films, which is Peter Jackson's company. Okay, so I wanted to watch this. Like I said, my mom was a giant fan. You weren't into it.
No, I was interested.
You did?
Yeah.
Because I was the one who put it on the TV.
Well, we talked about it. You said, I want to watch the Beatles documentary. Should I just watch it, or do you want... And I said, no, right. I want to watch it with you.
Right. And so I threw it on. It was a weeknight, and we're not going to trudge through 8 hours. And we didn't even make it through the first episode, which was around 2.5 hours. 45
minutes or
45 minutes, yeah.
We go to bed early on work nights.
Yeah. And then the second night, we've watched about 2 hours. And you might say, what kind of movie critics would review something after 2 hours in an 8-hour marathon piece of material? Well, you get the idea really quickly. It was just...
I think it's just more of the same. Although now that I know Let It Be's on there, I want to watch him writing that, or them starting that one.
Well, I read the Wikipedia plot synopsis, and it culminates in you see clips of this, of the Beatles rooftop concert, where they went onto the top of a building.
Is that where they finally decide to do? Because in the documentary currently, we're still in the first episode, but they can't figure out where they're gonna do this performance, which is supposed to happen in 2 weeks. Yeah, 2 weeks time. Yeah, and is it the director guy that wants them to go to like the Middle East,
Tripoli, Libya, or whatever?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. It's so annoying. He keeps pushing that, and they're like, "We're not going there." Right,
and I see, I can see that being like kind of a footnote. It's sort of interesting. Like this wackadoo wants to take them to some hieroglyphics castle in Libya.
Yeah, it's a really cool outdoor Coliseum type thing, which would be awesome for a concert.
Right.
But
they were like, no. And Paul was like, George, well, it was kind of amusing. He was like, George doesn't want to travel. George wants to stay home. Yeah. But then, like, the guy keeps coming at each Beatle, and then there's various producers and business people and hangers-ons, and he just won't shut up about Libya. And after 25 minutes of this, it's like, dude, Peter Jackson, you got to cut this nonsense. Peter. God, so, anyways, so, okay, so,
it's a really fascinating look into the Beatles at this time in their career.
Absolutely.
Because they've had so much success.
Huge success.
They're all rich.
Yeah.
So you see them in this giant warehouse coming together to write this music. There's so many people there.
Yeah.
They're so much bigger than just like a band.
Yeah.
And they all bring random people, like
yeah.
George brought a couple of Hare Krishna
guys.
And they just like kind of sit on the side and look like they're meditating or something.
They're literally sitting on the floor, like just hanging out. But they're quiet. I mean, they're doing their own thing.
George brings Yoko Ono. She's there every day.
John. Ono.
What did I say? George.
Yeah.
Paul brings his girlfriend Linda. They're not married yet.
Right.
But there's just so many people around, and they're big enough that they're just like kind of they're kind of like, I do what I want.
Yeah.
I bring who I want.
Yeah.
We take our time. We do what we want. We eat what we want.
Yeah. They do have they do have the conversation like, why are we doing this? It's not for money.
Yeah.
Because they don't need it. And they kind of conclude that they're doing it for the fans, for this live performance. And the idea is to record the album during the live performance. Which, I mean, okay, that's cool, but...
it's like they've done it all.
Yeah.
What else can we do? So they're trying to think, like, how can we make this different?
Right.
How can we further our creative process?
Yeah.
Our creativity?
Yeah. Because
they've been everywhere, they've done every type of performance.
Yeah.
Their last performance or recording TV thing before this, they recorded something in front of a live audience, and that was the actual like studio recording.
Yeah, and that they had a lot of fun, and they said, well, let's do this for the next album, and so that was the idea. They're in just an odd place in their career, because they're not exactly young anymore. They're older, and some nerves are frayed. John just shows up. Like, he's always late.
He's always late.
Yoko is always
him and Yoko
making, not necessarily making a scene, but I would say attracting attention, his attention, just too close for comfort.
You can see they're all they have like been individuating.
Yeah.
And that's really evident. Like, they're not a cohesive unit so much.
Yeah.
There's a lot of individual work happening.
Like, George tries to throw, he has material and he performs it, and Paul and John are just kind of giving him the ambivalent look.
Very lukewarm reception. Yeah. And then he's like, well, if you don't like it, fine.
Right. And then when Paul kind of gets George to play a certain way, George takes light offense, but then Paul is like, well, I feel like I'm the only one who's telling you to telling you what to do, and no one else backs me up, and everyone else just sits around. Well, being that close for that long, is and with that much money flowing around, and yes men and hangers-ons, it changes things, and they're changed, but it's still really cool. So they're in the, I think it's called Twickenham Studios, whatever that is, but it's a large space.
It's like a large warehouse.
Yeah,
empty.
Yeah, there's not much
empty.
going on, and they want to fill it up with equipment and all this stuff, and they're bringing stuff in. They're shipping
various
like studio music
equipment type stuff,
and but the space is mostly empty, and there are people around, but really it made me think like that they're so close knit and tight, just physically. Well, it made me think of when we watched the Friends reunion, and they got super super close because they were like, we were the only 6 people on Earth going through this very unique experience.
Yeah.
Same with the Beatles. They were the only 4 people who were going through this very just unnatural experience.
It's a very unique relationship.
Yeah, and so they're tight, but again, they're getting older, and you can see nerves and relationships
They're all
splitting and fraying.
They're growing bigger than the Beatles.
Yeah,
they're all starting to grow out of it.
Yeah,
and actually, I was expecting a lot more coldness and animosity between the 4 of them.
Yeah,
but I was surprised that they seem like they laugh a lot.
Mm-hmm.
They seem to really like care about each other.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of frustration, mostly coming from Paul and George, it seems.
Yeah.
Just with like the whole process, like they're under a very tight time constraint.
Yeah.
So I think Paul's nervous, kind of like, are we actually going to get this done in 2 weeks? And George, I think, is a little...
George or John?
George.
Okay.
No, not John Lennon.
Okay.
George seems a bit frustrated, but I think he feels overshadowed. I get the sense he doesn't like being a background character so much.
Right.
That's, I think, where his frustration is coming in.
Right.
Paul McCartney's frustration is like, we all need to focus and work harder and better and get this done.
Yeah.
But Ringo and John are very quiet.
Yeah.
Ringo is... John is joking a lot, and Ringo's just kind of quiet.
Yeah, Ringo... See, he looks bored and uninterested a lot of the time.
I think he's just more chill.
Yeah.
He's more laid back, I got the impression.
Yeah, and John, while a wunderkind when it comes to music, I think he just kind of goes along. What I'm saying is that Paul is the motor, the genius.
Yeah, clearly.
And you really see it.
Clearly the dad of the group.
Yeah, you really see it. And yeah, him and John wrote a bunch of these songs, but when they're just, it's just them 4 figuring things out and trying different things, coming up with ideas spontaneously. It's almost all Paul. Like, Paul
is definitely the instigator. Like,
yeah,
I noticed a lot. Paul's the one who like starts writing a song, but then when it shows the title and the credit, it's always Lennon McCartney.
Yeah.
So it seems like Paul's the one that starts these songs, and then John comes in and adds his stuff to it, and then the final piece ends up like being something they did together.
Yeah.
But I think Paul's the one that gets them started and keeps it moving.
Yeah.
Keeps things working and running.
Yeah. Creative genius.
Really fascinating to watch. They're so talented.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Yeah. So just notes, ideas, observations, hot takes. Very early on, again, when it's just them 4, and there's people hanging around doing their thing.
Yoko sitting right next to John the whole time.
Well, yeah. And there's an Ed Sheeran lookalike who I think fetches coffee for them. Yeah. He's a gopher, but you see this young ginger kid just kind of mosey in and out every once in a while. It's quite the sight. But early on, I paused it because seeing this process, we love this stuff. Like, we watched Shaggy talking about making It Wasn't Me, and going back to Ed Sheeran, I'm in love with The Shape of You. Just we like watching. I don't know if they're technically documentaries, but how songs came to be.
Yes, we love that.
It's such a fascinating process. It's just tinkering away and try this. No, try. Oh, sing it up here and sing it in E, and I'll play it in D. I don't even know what that means. And so I paused it early on when it was just them four figuring things out, and I was like, this is just incredible. Like it blew my mind that you're witnessing this, you're a part of this. It's like you're sitting there with them, but it's also at the same time nerve-wracking because there's tension there, and there's ego, and there's criticism, and there's feelings, and this happens with any art, any music, movies, because it comes down to judgment. There's no right or wrong or whatever. It's not like doing math or something. It's all opinion and gut feeling. So but I love just watching them just noodle away, and yeah, they have tons of money now, and they have tons of success, and their better days are behind them. Their super jaunty pop hit days are behind them. But I loved it. I just thought it was just groundbreaking stuff. Okay, let's get to what's important, honey. Yoko Ono. Now, you mentioned this. George has a couple Hare Krishna dudes. Okay, but they're quiet. They sit off to the side. They're literally sitting on the ground, and they don't interject or intervene. Who knows what they're doing there? Paul McCartney's girlfriend at the time, who he went on to marry, Linda, she was there, but again, she wasn't sitting on the ground. Like, they gave her a chair.
She was sitting kind of far away.
Yeah, in one of those like director chairs.
She was also just taking a ton of pictures of them, like candid shots of them working. Right.
She's a photographer, and you can use that content. You can put those photographs in an album, on a magazine, in a museum. But she's not part of the process, but she can contribute content on some level, and she hangs back, and she's pretty. Now Yoko Ono, her hair is like the girl from The Ring. But she is all up in their grill. Like, it's more than four lads from Liverpool. It's four lads from Liverpool and Yoko Ono. And she's literally sitting in between John and Paul.
And she's like, I think she was knitting.
She was knitting in one scene.
She's like reading a magazine.
Right. She's writing things down. Who knows? And sometimes she's just kind of vibing out, like dancing or kind of jiving and moving.
But you know what? She's quiet. She's not like talking.
Okay.
She's letting them work.
Yeah. I that would drive me up the wall.
But I bet she was there because John wanted her there.
Absolutely.
So it's him. He's the one to blame.
But John, yeah, well, okay, yeah, oh yeah, totally. But John should know that, dude, it's them four, and for someone to be that inside the circle, inside the process, it's gonna affect it. And if I were Paul McCartney, that would drive me up the wall. But obviously, that's your guy's lady there, so you can't say, get her out of here.
Nobody seemed bothered by it.
Yeah.
I think they were cool. And then
I think they hid their rage. I think Ringo had resting bitch face. George couldn't care less. He quit the band. Spoiler alert. He came back. But I think Paul did not appreciate it. Again, Linda hung back. She was chilling. And she's prettier. But, honey, you listened to a podcast saying, or did you read something?
I listened to a podcast. It's I love it. It's called You're Wrong About.
Yeah.
And it's two people looking back on events and people through history who were perhaps maligned or cast in a negative or false view to the world. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so they did an episode about Yoko Ono and John Lennon. And anyway, basically, she's not the reason they broke up. It was drugs.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. And money. And I think just growing and being different people and wanting to go in their own direction.
Yeah. She didn't help. And John allowing her
It was John. It wasn't her. I mean, she was who he was dating at the time, but it was...
Ultimately, it fell into John's hands.
Right.
But she is... causation is correlation, honey. I don't know. Yeah, well, okay, it's John's fault, but John... one of their just little jam sessions or tinkering sessions, you remarked, do you remember what you said?
I said they're all on drugs right now. They're all high.
Yeah, because they're just kind of doddering about.
Okay, basically, one last thing.
Yeah.
Take Yoko Ono out.
Yes.
Remove her.
Okay.
She never existed.
Okay.
John still is going to take the same trajectory.
With a different girl?
Just a different chick would be in his life at the time.
Okay.
And he was a bad guy. He was very abusive to his first wife and to Yoko, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I know he was not a good guy to his first wife, but...
Yeah. He wasn't a great guy.
Yeah.
So take a bit of the hate from Yoko.
Okay. Just a little.
Just a little.
Yeah.
Could she have sat somewhere else during the recording? Absolutely.
Yes. Stay home. Stay.
Just stay back 10 feet.
John's giant Manhattan apart. Right. Stay back. Hang back with the Hare Krishna guys, dude. Have a cup of tea with them. Shoot. Well, let's get to what's really important, honey. Paul is beautiful.
He's really handsome in this.
He is gorgeous. He has a beard.
This is his beard phase.
Yes, and side note, personal note, with a beard, he looks like my dad, who a darker guy. I guess he's Italian, Sicilian, but
Italian stallion.
But my dad rocked the beard for a long time. And I was looking at Paul and I was like, that looks like my dad. And my mom agrees. But he is he's just handsome. And I know throughout decades there's been the debate, are you a John girl or a Paul girl?
Oh, really?
Yeah. I've always been a Paul girl myself, but it was really came into full fruition here. And
yeah, he's very... I've never thought any of the four of them were very good looking. But
yeah.
I don't... it's the beard, I guess. Because I do think Paul's very attractive at this time.
Yeah.
And I have to say, this is the first time I've ever thought that John's kind of cute.
Really?
Yeah. I've never thought he was attractive. He's kind of cute at sometimes.
See, okay, so I rewatched the first 15 minutes today while you were at Hazy's, your hair cutter. See, my opinion is that during this time, John let himself go, dude. He didn't care about his hair. He didn't care about the way he dressed. But then Peter Jackson does show archival footage from a few years before.
They look very different after just a few years.
Right. When they had the suits. And John, better looking, still not classically handsome, but he had a look. He had a thing going on. But Paul, clean shaven, I thought was just more attractive, cuter. And as the years went on, John became a freaking hippy dippy or whatever.
Yeah.
Paul kept it together. And so, Paul just, the genius that is Paul McCartney, very handsome. What Peter Jackson did was, so he got all this footage and they did whatever CGI, digital mastery, software, airbrushing, something or other, but they restored the video to look fantastic.
It's beautiful. It's really clear.
When it first came on, I was like, "Is this a dramatic reenactment?" Because it's very clear. It's crystal clear.
It looks great,
and it's not like 8K Avengers, but it looks very good.
Mm-hmm.
And so it came on, and I think it was just some random guy in the beginning. Just hanging out in the studio, and I'm like, okay, is this gonna be a bunch of dramatic reenactments?
Which you hate?
What the heck? Because they're dumb. They waste my time and my vision and my energy. But it looks fantastic, and again, it's not 4K or 8K. But it looks really good, and it's just it kind of it blows my mind, and they do play like older footage, and it's kind of scratchy or whatever. It has the warts and all of old film processing, but I really appreciate what Peter Jackson did, just to make everything beautiful, and just easy to watch. Well, again, it makes you feel like you're dropped in there. You're dropped into this circle, this creative
it's very
circle.
intimate.
Yeah.
And Paul, mostly I think Paul complains. He's like, all these cameras on us all the time.
Yeah.
I can't work like this. He doesn't like the fact that they're being filmed constantly and watched.
A few times they're like, we're being filmed, so they are aware, but there's a lot of like intimate, personal, close stuff.
It's great for the viewer, though. It's great for us, not for the band.
Absolutely. Booze and smoking. So they all smoke.
Yeah, John Lennon like sticks his cigarette in his guitar strings when he can't hold it.
Right. So there's smoke, there's ash, and they're drinking booze, like wine and beer, and they're talking about getting us beer, so I wonder. Peter Jackson didn't make this clear. Are these how long? This is they have like 2 weeks to put the show together. How long were these sessions? Because he brings out the calendar. He shows a visual like a calendar of the time, and so you'll see it's whatever June 7th, January 7th, and then whatever a half hour later it's January 8th. So he moved on the next day. But I would like to know, are these sessions 2 hours per day? Are they 14-hour days? It's not made clear.
What time do they start? What time do they go home?
Right. Well, they do. Getting back to just friendship and relationships, it does start in the morning because they greet each other. They will like there's the group there, the nucleus of producers and music men, and then like George will walk in and be like, good morning. So is it 7? I doubt it's 7 a.m. I doubt it's 6 a.m. But I'm thinking more 9 or 10 a.m. But is it 2 hours they're in this space together? Are they there till 3 a.m. the next morning? What time does John Lennon show up? Because he shows up late almost all the time. Late.
I bet that Peter Jackson does not have those details.
That's probably it.
And maybe Paul or Ringo don't remember, or whoever he could have asked. Maybe he didn't care enough to.
I'd be super fascinated. Is it in 9 to 5, an 8-hour workday? I don't know. I just wanted that information. I wanted timestamps of when Ringo shows up. And Ringo, a few times, he's like, oh, I'm not doing too good. In other words, I drank last night. I'm a little hungover. John saunters in with Yoko. Anyways, like I said, we like the stories about how songs come together, and just kind of how they tinker away in the studio. Try this drum, try this note, but it gets to the point where it's too much. It's too much tinkering, and there's too much conversations that just go nowhere, and they go on endlessly.
They talk a lot.
Yeah. And there's a lot of talk of where should we hold this, and like we said, the guy says go to Tripoli, and then they're like, oh, we could do it here. Oh, let's do it at George's house. Oh, let's do it at this studio. Oh, and it just goes, and it's like no one cares.
Yeah.
Well, you said this is for the super duper.
Duper fan. If you're a super duper Beatles fan, you are going to eat this up every minute of it, and it's awesome that it exists for those people.
Yeah.
You and I just want to kind of get to the meat of it.
Yeah. And like I said, this is towards the end of their career. They're past their 6 hits per album or whatever phase. I wish they had this kind of archival footage, or I wish Peter Jackson did this. Wish they had all this video from when they put out all those hits, like when they were writing Help and Love Me Do and all that. I think that would have been way more interesting, because with every single song that's been created in the history of time, there is a story. Oh, I came up with the chorus when I woke up one night and it just popped in my head. But let's be honest, those stories are only interesting when they become a giant hit.
Yes.
Like, Shaggy, it wasn't me. Oh, I just talked like this when I was in the army as a joke, and then I started doing it on the record. And that's literally what he said in the little documentary we watched. So I would have been more into it had this taken place when they were still pumping out #1 Billboard smash hits.
And oop.
Yeah, it talked about the too long, too indulgent conversation about location. Oh my goodness.
And oop.
We didn't do an introduction.
Oh yeah.
And oop.
They do go into the controversy of the Beatles, and two main ones. One, something happened at a Manila airport. They didn't get too specific, but something happened, and people in the Philippines got mad at the Beatles. I don't know. But the bigger one, the one that most people know, is John had a quote saying, just trying to describe their success and just how big they were, how prevalent they were. And his quote was something to the effect of, "We're bigger than Jesus Christ." Okay, Google it if you care, if you want to know more. It doesn't matter. But Peter Jackson shows some clips of interviews of them getting asked about this. What's up with your Jesus Christ quote? What did you mean? Were you taken out of context? This... And then them responding, "Oh, this tour is not as fun as the previous ones." And you just realize this is just it's just nonsense. Like watching BTS get interviewed and One Direction get interviewed about whatever controversy, and Zayn leaving, and it's just the media is just so dumb and boring.
We've always been dumb. We continue to be dumb.
Yeah.
And
it's just a bunch of silly nonsense. And
the more things change, the more they stay the same. Am I right?
John clearly wasn't being anti-Jesus or whatever, anti-Christian. And his quote had a little nuance. Maybe he was high. Who the heck? I blame Yoko for that quote. But just the media salivating over it and showing pictures of people throwing their cassette tapes on the ground and stomping. It's just all so dumb. And I think about the Dixie Chicks. Remember they had their George Bush controversy and Two Live Crew and whatever. It's just all so stupid. It's just music, dude. Dig it. And if you don't, who cares? But just all these interviews, just nothing has changed in 50 years. The media just focuses on really, really stupid things. And I feel bad for the Beatles, Thoughts and Prayers, and One Direction. And
being famous is hard, y'all.
Being rich and famous is hard, y'all. But being asked the same question about something dumb, being asked the question 800 different ways a Sunday, who cares? Peter Jackson obviously did the Lord of the Rings, which was about 8 hours. LOTR, The Fellowship, and Return of the King. And then he came out with the extended Criterion Collection, which was
about 14 hours.
14 hours. So is he going to come out with another a 14-hour version of this? I hope not. But we stopped watching it because it was enough.
We watched about 2 hours?
2 hours, yeah. And then there's about 6 hours left.
That's enough.
And it was like, nah. Like I said, I read the Wikipedia plot synopses. George quit and they had a concert at the top of the roof.
Can we find them making Let It Be? And then can we watch I want to see George quit. Can we watch the end? And I want to see like the final culmination. Like where did they actually end up performing? I want to actually see it.
Yeah. We'll definitely watch that.
Okay.
But yeah, and it goes to when do you? We've talked about this. When do you give up? You recently gave up on Dope Sick.
I gave up on everything.
Right.
Yeah, Dope Sick, I only had 2 episodes, and I was determined to finish it, and then the very next day I lost my resolve.
Yeah. And well, you read a lot. You read like 50 books a year, honey.
Yeah.
What? And you give up on books. Is there something? Do you have a 50-page limit or 100 page?
100 pages. If I'm not digging a book by about 100 pages, I give up.
Yeah.
And that doesn't happen often. But if I don't force myself to finish a book. There's too many in the world I still want to read.
Right. Yeah, I gave up on Dope. You gave up on Dope Sick on episode 5.
Yeah.
I gave up on it on episode 3.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was just, well, you need to know when to cut shit or get off the pot, or when to cut bait. What's a cliche?
All of that.
You need to know when to cut your goods and move on with your life, and that's what we decided to do. I'm gonna visit my mom in February, and I think we'll try to watch this. I think watching it with her would be cool. Because like I said, she's super duper fan. And then, yeah, I mentioned this earlier, but like I showed you the headlines of The Weeknd's Blinding Lights, and then like Grammy nominations recently came out. Jay-Z has the 86 Grammy nominations, which is the highest. He just got a couple more this year, which is the most Grammy nominations of all time. Whatever, dude. And even when it comes to Taylor Swift and Adele, I guarantee no one will be listening to them en masse like the Beatles in 50 years.
Who cares about Billboard? Who cares about awards? Yeah. Like your legacy is what you leave, and like what matters. And I think it's very clear. Their songs are everywhere. Yeah. They've been in so many films, and like I forget which song it was. I had no idea that was them, and that's a super popular song.
Shake it up, baby, now shake it up.
So, like, that's what matters. And you're right. I don't think a lot of these artists today that are getting all these Grammys and whatnot, I don't think they're gonna carry on in quite the same way.
Yeah, and today is different than it was 50 years ago.
The industry is way more saturated. Yeah, there's so much choice,
and you can get music on so many different ways, so many different avenues. But I think the Beatles were one of a kind, and I can't think of another artist. Elvis, maybe.
Elvis had a ton of hits as well. Yeah. Not as many though.
Right.
I think. But yeah, that he's probably the Michael Jackson.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he had hits, but it was only over 3 to 4 albums. I'd say he has 10 to 12 like great hit songs. Not like.
I'm just trying to think of anyone else that is like anywhere.
Yeah.
Like stands out in the same way like that.
No one. Well, not Drake. Okay. Not Jay-Z, not Taylor Swift, not Adele, not The Weeknd, definitely not The Weeknd. But yeah, well, honestly, it won't happen again. I'll be bold and say
Celine Dion.
When Britney's free now, she's free. She could start making mad hits. Another thing is like we've talked about, they were clearly on the creative decline, whatever that means. They weren't as popular. They weren't pumping out material as popular. So did they change? Did America/the world's taste change? Did just time move on?
Time changed. It was a different world.
Yeah.
It was a much more politically charged world. Yeah. Like they have a lot of more politics in their songs.
Yeah.
At that in the documentary.
Yeah.
They're older. They've lived this different life experience that they hadn't lived 10 years earlier.
Yeah. I think they had the normal lifespan of a pop whatever, which is just a couple years, less than a decade. But the number of hits they had in that couple of years, in that less than a decade time, was just unparalleled and something special, and I don't think we'll ever have it again.
That's the thing. Something I was thinking about as we were watching this is a music group, a musical collaboration. It's temporary.
Mm-hmm.
It's always going to be temporary.
Yeah.
Like this, it runs its course.
Yeah.
So just appreciate what happened. Just appreciate the good times.
Yeah.
It's inevitable that it will come to an end.
Yeah.
That's just the nature of people and creative partnerships.
Yeah. Like right now, Paul McCartney, God bless him, he's still, I mean, if you want a good tear, if you want a good cry, if you want to get choked up, watch his Carpool Karaoke with James Corden from a couple years ago.
That's really good.
But God bless the kid, but he couldn't write a hit song right now, and whatever that means, he couldn't get it on the right radio stations, or enough people wouldn't buy it, or he just can't get there creatively, or he's just not in the same space. I watched Billy Joel on Howard Stern, watched a clip on YouTube of Howard Stern interviewing Billy Joel, and he said he can't write anymore because his world of whatever, Long Island and Manhattan and mansions and cars, it's not relatable. It's not interesting as when he was coming up and playing bars and dive bars and having no money.
He was like singing the Everyman tune.
Yeah, right.
The Everyman Experience.
Yeah, and he can't do that anymore. So he just doesn't write. He still writes music and plays music, but he just can't churn out material that's relatable. And he's perfectly fine with that. And I think that it's fascinating that he's even just aware. Yeah. Like, that's self-aware to say something like that. But yeah, you have your time, and then hopefully you have enough hits to let you retire and give your kids some money. But yeah, Beatles. It was a good 2 hours. We don't want to waste another 6 hours of our lives. But I'll watch it with my mom, or maybe I'll have my mom give us the highlights of the Beatles Get Back. Well, alrighty. Is that the end of the program, honey?
Yeah.
That's the end of the program. It's been fun, but not really. Let's all try a little harder next time. Like, comment, subscribe, follow, review, and rate, or don't. Do whatever you want. You're a grown-up. Make your own decisions. Do what's best for your family. Please be sure to use our promo code for HelloFresh. We don't have a promo code for HelloFresh. Frankie Blue is here with darling daughter Luna Marie. Goodbye. I love you. We love you. We hope you have a good day today and tomorrow. And sure, I may have said I didn't want to give my mom my Disney Plus login and password, but I'm still a good person, and we're still good people. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your time. I hope you have a wonderful day/night. Bye-bye. Frankie, anything? Your hot take? Is that Frankie or Santa Claus?
And oop.
We got chicken.
Is that crispy, juicy tender?